Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Paranormal experiences don't really work to a timescale, and therefore we invite you to listen to a dark minisode. Hello everyone, and welcome to the actual penultimate minisode for season 24. Yes, I have made a few mistakes in the last week or so over the use of the word penultimate. Completely my doing, and I've led accidentally some of you to believe you've missed an episode or two. But no, you're in the right, and I'm most certainly in the wrong on this one. I accidentally believed we were in the penultimate week last week. So I do apologise if you've heard me say penultimate in a place where the word penultimate should not have been, but let me guarantee, this is the penultimate minisode for this season. And as from a perspective of minisodes at least, we have this episode and next week's only to go, I will reiterate that although we have season 25, a season we're looking at as a rather special one, it's a quarter centennial, if you will, more or less planned out in regards to episodes. As you guys well and truly know, we're a fluid show. So, do not let the fact when I say we have a series mapped out with the experiences, etc., stop you from sending in your experience immediately. As many listeners will testify if they've submitted their experience, you may hear it a lot sooner than you would ever imagine. To my memory, not one season has gone by since maybe season 10, where an experience has come in that season and been used that season. We choose the experiences very much on where we've sat in the experiences around that experience, if that makes any sense. Now, this minisode, our penultimate minisode, has come to us from a gentleman named Arthur. Now, to be fair to Arthur, he has had several reservations about me airing this episode. And I'm quite informal with Arthur now, back and forth via email, due to the amount of times he's changed his mind. However, at time of airing this episode, Arthur has told me to go for it and to ignore any further after-aired responses from him to pull the episode. So I know Arthur has genuinely struggled with submitting this episode. So thank you, Arthur, for allowing me to let everyone know what they're about to hear. Now, with all that said, if you have your experience, the link's in the show notes, or go to thedarkparanormal.com and click on Submit My Experience. At the end of this episode, I'll also reference our wonderful Patreon team and how you can sign up for a free week as we're about to hit that downtime so that you can still get your dark paranormal fix. But right now, it's that time of the week where I demand that you find some well-deserved moments to yourself to make a nice drink, sit down, put your headphones in, and join me as we learn all about Arthur's email, The Dark Quadrant. Hi, Kevin. Long-time listener here. I've started this email about 6 times over the past year, and I've deleted it every time. Because every time I read it back, it sounds like something I've made up. Believe me, I haven't. I'm a very practical person by trade. I work as an inventory assessor for commercial liquidation firms. which basically translates as when a business collapses or a warehouse gets abandoned, I'm the one who goes in and counts what's left for the auctioneers. It's dusty, methodical, unglamorous work. The kind of job that trains you to look at a space and only see data. Sadly, I'm close to retirement age, but if my English teacher was still alive, they would second the fact that I'm not much of a storyteller. So the idea I could fabricate this, or indeed make this up off the top of my head, to anyone who knows me would be, literally, laughable. So fiction work I'm not much good at, but remembering things I'm excellent at. I'm the one people turn to when they say, "Where were we when?" or things along that line. I have an excellent memory which I think has been heightened by the role I do, which is part of the reason I will be sad when I retire next year. However, back to my experience. This took place last October when I was assigned to a contract at an industrial estate outside Leeds in the UK. A corporate document storage firm had gone bankrupt abruptly, leaving behind years of unclaimed archived crates and office equipment. The basement level, a long subterranean archive floor, had been sealed for almost 15 years due to a legal dispute over the land. And I would be the first person contracted to go in and map it out. Now, although that basement had been sealed for 15 years, it wasn't atmospheric in the way you may picture. It wasn't cobwebbed or decayed. It was more dry, sterile, almost perfectly preserved, which was somehow, to me at least, worse. The kind of preservation you get when air stops circulating entirely. It smelled of old ink and concrete. No natural light at all. The auction company had rigged a single string of low-wattage light bulbs down the central corridor, but the branching aisles of either side stayed dark. So I was using a head torch and a heavy tactical torch. So when I navigated my way down those corridors, I would at least have full lighting. Well, as full as I could get it anyway. The first 2 days were completely uneventful. I'd walk an aisle, log a barcode, note the content, and I'd move on. The only sounds were my own boots and the muffled diesel thrum of the generator through the ceiling. It was on the Wednesday afternoon, near the end of the Eastern Quadrant, I found something that didn't fit. It was the end of aisle 14. There was a heavily reinforced security cage, the kind with a steel frame and wire mesh panels, locked with an old combination lock. I shone my torch through the mesh, and inside, instead of files or office furniture, there were CRT TVs, probably 40 of them, all stacked on the shelving, all facing outwards. The boxy kind from the late 90s, the ones with the thick plastic casings and curved glass screens. They were all, of course, unplugged, the power cables coiled on the floor. But there was no obvious reason for them to be there. They weren't listed in any documentation, nor anywhere on the preliminary inventory. I made a log of the cage, noted the anomaly for the office to query, and I moved on. I got maybe 10 or 15 feet away, already turning the corner into the next aisle, when I heard a sound. Very quiet. A dry, rhythmic tick, tick, tick. The sound these old TVs would make when the plastic casing is cooling after you've switched it off. I must have heard it thousands of times as I owned one, and it's a very unique sound. I stood perfectly still, listening to this ticking, and then I headed back, shining my torch down that aisle, directly at that cage. Nothing had changed, but I stood and listened. Silence. The ticking had stopped. I put it down to a simple temperature differential in the basement, and I went home. The next morning is when things shifted. I came back at 8 a.m. I got the generator running, and I went straight to that eastern quadrant to finish the mapping. When I reached the end of aisle 14, I stopped. 3 of the monitors in the middle row had been turned around. They were now facing the back wall of the cage, screens pressed inward. But this cage was still locked. The dust on that combination dial completely undisturbed. I stood looking at the lock and the TVs back and forth for a good while. Moving those units would have meant opening a locked steel door, physically lifting monitors that, believe me, are not light, rotating them without leaving so much as a scuff on the floor of the cage. The floor of the cage did have a thin layer of settled dust. I crouched down and looked through the mesh with my torch angled low. That layer of dust was completely intact. No disturbances, no footprints. Money goals are things we all have. My personal one is to make sure that I'm mortgage-free by age 50. How am I getting towards that goal? I'm 46, and in 4 years, do I think I'm going to get there? Well, I'm unfoundedly optimistic. But here's the most interesting thing. We only like to talk about money when we've made it, when that goal is achieved. Now, you've probably got our well-being app. Well, Acorns is a financial wellness app that wants to show a little love to everyone who's on their way to a goal. Some people shy away from the word investing because it seems like it's a word for people who know about finance, etc. Believe me, that's not a prerequisite. Acorns is a smart way to give your money a chance to grow. Acorns is easy. You can sign up in minutes and start automatically investing your money, even if you've just got spare change. Acorn supports your big and small goals across every life stage. Plus, the app has the Acorns Potential screen, which shows you the power of compounding and how your money could grow over time. Acorns is an all-in-one. No more finance apps cluttering up your phone. With Acorns, you can invest, save, and give your money a chance to grow in one trusted place. Believe me, I've never seen something like the Acorns Potential screen showing the power of compounding. And even that word, compounding, we all believe that belongs to the ones who work in Wall Street. It doesn't. It's yours as much as theirs. So sign up now and Acorns will boost your new account with a £5 bonus investment. Join the over 14 million all-time customers who already have saved and invested over $27 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/dark paranormal or download the Acorns app to get started.
Paid on client endorsements. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 2 compensation provided. Potential subject to various factors such as customers' accounts, age, and investment settings. Does not include Acorns fees. Results do not predict or represent the performance of any Acorns portfolio. Investment results will vary. Investing involves risk. Acorn Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/dark paranormal.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. For some, summer is their favourite season. The kids are out of school, adventure's the focus, but for others, such as me, juggling it can be tough. It can lead to overwhelm and counting down the minutes and days till those kids are back at school and the cooler weather arrives. Others may be worrying they're wasting their days of sunshine. Now, I'm not one of those people. For me, hot weather and me do not mix. Now, personally, I have a therapist myself, so I can speak openly and honestly about how sometimes those seemingly irrelevant conversations with my therapist can go on to better my life. Because therapy can help you understand your own needs better. It can make you feel more confident, set boundaries, create a version of summer that actually feels good for you, whatever summer looks like for you. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform. It's served over 6 million people globally, and it works. With an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com. That's betterhelp.com.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
I didn't panic. I want to be clear about that because I do think it matters. I noted it in my log. Lot 402, 3 units repositioned, cage integrity uncompromised, query with office. And I moved to the Western Quadrant and kept working. Because that's what you do. You note the anomaly and you keep working. I've worked in enough abandoned buildings, alone, to know that the mind is very good at creating significance from coincidence. And I wasn't ready to abandon that instinct just yet. By mid-afternoon, I was up on a rolling ladder in the western section, working through an upper shelf, and the generator cut out. Total darkness. Where I was, I didn't require my head torch nor the tactical one. So I made my way slowly down the ladder in complete darkness and fumbled in my bag to find both. Once I had them both on, I started back up the ladder. Again, because that's what you do. Generators cut out, especially in abandoned buildings. It had cut out briefly before, on the Tuesday. It's not unusual. Old equipment, cold days, mixed together with zero maintenance, and these things happen. So just as I'm about to continue with my work, I heard the whine. And if you grew up with CRT TVs, you know the sound I'm talking about exactly. It's that high, thin electrical frequency that they emit when the tube is warming up, before the picture comes on. It's a very specific sound, almost inaudible, unless a room is completely quiet. And the basement was absurdly quiet. Now this whine wasn't loud, but it was there, coming from the eastern side of the building. I descended the ladder, telling myself this was just residual charge. Old capacitors can hold current for a long time. Something just discharging. I know just enough about electronics to construct a plausible explanation. And I held on to that very thin explanation very deliberately as I walked back through the dark towards the central corridor. At the main intersection, I paused. Down the eastern corridor at the very far end, there was a faint light, pale and slightly blue. The quality of light that only comes from a CRT screen. That particularly cold flicker. Yes, it was coming from aisle 14. As I walked up to check, I noticed one screen. That was all. One monitor in that locked cage with no power source, showing static on the screen. I should have left. I should have walked to the stairs at least. They were right there, 10 foot to my left. I don't know why I didn't. Curiosity, maybe? Fear? The same flat professional habit that makes you note an anomaly instead of running from it? I walked to the end of the corridor and peered closer into the cage. It was just the one screen. The middle unit in the top row, facing outward the way it had originally. The static was ordinary. The grey and white interference of an untuned channel. No image, no shape, nothing unusual, except there was no power. There was, however, noise. The noise of the static I only noticed the closer I got, as if the volume was on 1. I stood there looking at it for probably 30 seconds, then I turned to leave. As I did so, the static sound changed pitch. I didn't look back immediately. I took one more step. Then I stopped, because something had registered in my periphery on my way round. A change in the light, a shift in the pattern on the concrete wall. I turned back. The image on the screen was no longer static, and it took me a good while to understand just what I was looking at. The picture was dark and slightly grainy, the way old CCTV footage looks. A narrow corridor of metal shelving. A person stood at the end, facing away, holding a torch. The beam of said torch cutting down the aisle in front of them. Then I recognised the high visibility vest. I recognised the particular way I hold a torch, slightly low and to the left, a habit of years of ducking under shelving. It wasn't a reflection, the angle was wrong for a reflection. This was elevated, looking down, the way a camera mounted high on a wall would look, and the person on the screen wasn't moving in real time. They were stood completely still. I left. I don't have a better way to put it. I left quickly and I didn't look behind me, and I didn't go back. Kev, I've spent the better part of a year trying to pull that image apart. Residual electromagnetic charge in the tube? A reflection of something I didn't notice? A psychological response to low-level carbon monoxide from a poorly ventilated generator? I've looked up everything, every documented case. I can construct a version of the explanation that almost holds everything together. If I really squeeze at the boundaries of believability and I try and work at it. But the person on the screen wasn't moving. They were stood still in an aisle I had left 90 seconds earlier. And I had been moving when looking at the screen. Thank you for reading this, Kev. I hope if anyone else has experienced something they can't quite account for and are desperate to keep a rational, open mind in terms of it being something normal, that they maybe just take a deep breath and send their experience to you. Best wishes, Arthur. Well, Arthur, I will once more thank you for submitting your experience. Although you know how many times I've said thank you for allowing me to use your experience in our back and forth emails to one another. I feel I've got to know you a little bit better than the average submitter. And if anyone's wondering, Arthur is Arthur's real name. It seems rather strange, and I said this to Arthur, as most people who are quite on the fence about submitting their experience, if they opt to do so, they very much would like to stay anonymous. For some reason, which I found rather humorous, Arthur was not bothered in the slightest about his name being used. It was more the context of the experience, and I guess it kind of felt like, if we do this, I'm officially putting my name on it, rather literally. So I thank you for your braveness, Arthur, and for an amazing email that does make me, at least, question how people like you do those jobs where you go to somewhere abandoned, on your own, and not freak out at any single noise you hear. So thank you so much, Arthur. And a huge thank you to each and every one of you who've joined us today for this little nibble before our main course on Friday, the penultimate Dark Paranormal of Season 24. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are of course about to enter our fallow period before the start of Season 25, where we take a few weeks off from the show. And this will be the perfect opportunity to claim your free week trial for our Patreon team. Now, at the first level of Patreon, you will receive ad-free episodes, and let's be honest, who doesn't like that? The next tier, you get early access and ad-free episodes, and that goes for debuts and finales. And at the third tier, you gain an hour's extra content each and every week of the year, even on the downtime between seasons. And that comes in the form of a Dark Bites episode of 30 plus minutes and an episode of After Dark where we dissect what we've spoke about recently. Plus, you gain access to the full back catalogue of over 200 hours of Dark Bites episodes, enough to keep anyone going over the break. So, the link for Patreon is in the show notes, or you can go to patreon.com/The Dark Paranormal. But until next time for our Minisode finale, stay safe and take care.
Your child wakes up in the middle of the night with a high fever and the pharmacy is closed. You could wait agonizing hours just to try and get a doctor's appointment, or you could prepare ahead of time with Jace Medical. Jace makes it simple for families to stay ready with kits like the Jace case. These are ready-to-go supplies of prescription antibiotics and essential medications for travel, emergencies, or everyday life. With Jace, you're investing in more than health. You're investing in true peace of mind that you are prepared for the unexpected. It's fast, it's affordable, and it could be life-saving. Just head to jace.com, answer a few quick questions, and a licensed doctor reviews your info in minutes. After that, your meds are shipped directly to your door. Keep yourself and your loved ones prepared with the right medications on hand no matter what comes next at jace.com.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.